Morning guys, I'm Dave Canterbury with Self-Reliance Outfitters and the Pathfinder School. I thought we would talk real quick today about emergency shelters and emergency shelter setup in a little bit different configuration than we've talked about in the past. At the Pathfinder School, we teach multi-use gear. Multi-functionality is important in the things that you carry so that you can carry less items with you and get more out of them. The emergency space blanket is one of those items. You can use it for a shelter system, but you can also use it for an immediate signal panel. As you can see, we have an orange space blanket here with 3 black X's duct taped to the back to give an immediate aerial signal that we need help. Most of us go into the woods carrying green or camouflage or black or some off-color space blanket that's not highly visible. If it's a piece of emergency gear, you want it to be high vis. That's the reason I talk about orange emergency space blankets in our basic survival class. One of the things that you have to remember with a space blanket like this that you're using for a signal panel is that it needs to be in an area where it can be seen from the air. If you are underneath a canopy of trees and you've got this set up, you could possibly be seen through the canopy, especially when the leaves are off like it is in fall right now. But in the summertime, it may be more difficult. So there's times that you'll want to set that shelter up in an area that is possibly on higher ground or at least in open ground where it can be seen visibly from the air. So what we're going to talk about today is how to deploy this simple system that we use with no changes and just add 2 simple bipods to set up a shelter in an open area where we have no trees available. Stay with me. Now you can see that this shelter is set up at this point in a lean-to type configuration. However, you can use this same bipod setup to make any of the shelter configurations that we teach normally in our basic survival class. And then generally we teach the lean-to, the A-frame, the plow point, and the fly as our main shelters that we use for tarps or emergency space blankets. Then we also teach a raised bed configuration that's a little more complicated that employs your 6mm contractor bags. So what we're going to talk about today is a simple lean-to structure, how to build this ridge and how to set this up so that you don't really have to carry anything extra that's not already in your kit. Let's get after it. Okay, so let's talk about real quick what we need for this project. Like I said, stuff that you're already carrying is really all you're going to need other than some poles off the landscape, which are easily cut with your folding saw. They don't need to be large poles. They only need to be about 1 inch diameter. Now, you've got your rapid deployment ridge line. This has been a staple at the Pathfinder School for years. There's lots and lots of videos by my instructors out there, from Corporals Kelly to Black Hat Bushcraft, Adaptable Survival. I think all of those guys have videos on this rapid deployment ridgeline system. Utility ropes. I've got a video on this system of carrying utility ropes, and we would need 2 of these for this project. I generally profess carrying 4 of these in your shelter kit, so you have 1 for each corner of your tarp or fly so that you can create a fly type setup where all 4 corners are actually suspended off the ground. And then you need some stakes. I've got 4 here. We generally tell people to carry 6 in their kit. An emergency space blanket that already has the 3 black X's in duct tape on the blanket. And that's something that we teach here at the school as well. You should take this orange space blanket, lay it on your living room floor, your kitchen, whatever. Put those 3 black X's on there and then pack it away because, again, it's emergency gear. But when you need it, it's already done and you don't have to fuss with it. All right? Then we're going to have to cut 4 poles to make our bipods out of. I'm going to show you how to do a quick bipod lash here in just a minute. And then we're ready to set this bad boy up. Okay, real quick, let's cover this bipod lash. I've got one of my utility cords here that are about 6 foot long. That's way more than what we need for this project. But I know it's 6 foot, and I know whenever I pull one of these out, it's going to be that size. All we're going to do is take a loop that we've already got tied in the line, our bow line, and wrap it around and pull the tail through to create a self-tightening hitch right there, okay? Give ourselves, I don't know, round about 3-4 inches sticking up. We're gonna wrap that around 3 times, all right? Those are our wraps. And then we're going to frap this thing, which means we're gonna come around the top, just like this, and we're gonna come inside those wraps and create fraps. And we're going to tighten that down as we go and really crank down on it. Get our poles adjusted where we want them before we start cranking down. And we're going to make 3 fraps in between those wraps, just like this. Again, this is not a perfect lash. It's a temporary lash. And then we're just going to come up here. We're going to put 2 half hitches over one of the poles, just like this, and tighten it down. And that's going to be our temporary bipod for our shelter. Now, we've got plenty of line left over. We can wrap that up or down one of the poles. It's not a problem, just to get it out of our way, or we can leave it hanging there for utility to put a Marline spike hitch in, to hang a bag off of, or a light, or anything like that, if that's what we choose to do. Once we have 2 of these, we're ready to go. Okay, the first thing I like to do here is take my bipods, lay one on the ground, and then step off 1, 2.5 steps, and drop another one on the ground. That gives me about the width of my space blanket. Then I'll take my space blanket and I will make sure that my loops for tying to the ground are in the direction I want the ground to be facing. In this case, we're going to go back this direction. Then I'm going to lay that space blanket on the ground, just like this, and make any tripod or bipod adjustments that I need to make as far as spacing goes, if I want that to be just a little further apart. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our rapid deployment ridge line. All right, so generally I will just pick a spot and drive a stake in the ground, and that stake is going to have this first loop around it. So I'm going to pull a little bit of line out, about 1 fathom, 1 pull, and move those prussics down the line out of my way. Then I'm going to wrap around this and drive a stake in the ground at about a 45-degree angle, just like this. Now I'm going to take that bipod and I'm going to figure out what angle I want my shelter to be at as far as the height goes. Pull it away just a little bit like this. And then all I'm going to do is a round turn, or just 1 turn around this bipod with my line. All right, so I've just wrapped this line up this bipod so it's not confusing the issue. And all I'm doing is I'm dropping that ridge line over the top, getting an angle away from the stake of at least 30 degrees to 45 degrees, standing my bipod up at the height I want my shelter to be, pushing it into the ground to make sure it's steady. And then I'm taking 1 round turn around, just 1 loop around, and that's going to, as this is tight, it's going to keep that in place. It can't move. Now I'm going to attach the first corner of my tarp to this. So I'll come up here and grab my first corner. I'll go ahead and put this loop through the grommet. I pre-cut 2 toggles. I've got them in my pocket. You can use tent stakes for this. It's not a problem. Toggles work pretty good though, all right? So we're just gonna leave that hanging right there for the time being. And then we're going to walk down to the other end. So when we come to the other end, we just pull our other bipod up off the ground. We make sure that everything is even, that the height of our line is even and our bipods are even. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our space blanket and we're going to grab that corner and ensure that we have enough space here. If we don't, we're going to step it off. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this other loop and we're going to go ahead and put it through this far grommet and go ahead and put our other toggle in there, just like this, and then pull that tight on the line, just like this. And that's going to give us our spacing right here. Now we've got this pulled tight, our ridge is tight, and now all we're going to do is even things up and square things up, and then come around one more time, giving ourselves a little bit of adjustment space, and go around that tripod or bipod one more time and stake this to the ground. So we've got a round turn and a round turn, and that's going to hold these rigid where they can't move. Then we're just going to come over here with a stake, grab another stake out of our pocket here, and I'm just going to step off where I want that stake to be, give myself a Marline spike hitch in the line. Again, I've got videos on that as well. Push that stake in at a 45. and hammer that dude home. Any extra line that I have, I'm just going to wind it around my hand just to neaten it up, just like this. Put it on the line and pull it through itself in a lark's head, just like that. That will neaten that line up. It'll come right off when I'm ready to leave. So now that I have my ridge line set, everything's tight, nothing can move side to side. All I have to do is pull out the back and stake it down, and I'm good to go. Simple as that. Guys, I appreciate you joining me today for this quick video on how to set up this emergency shelter in an open area utilizing 2 bipods. And it can be adapted once you understand this ridgeline system to all the other shelters that we talked about, from plow points to A-frames to flies, using this same system. But it gives you an immediate signal panel as soon as you set up your camp, and that's important when it comes to search and rescue and survival. I appreciate your views. I appreciate your support. I thank you for everything you do for our school, for our family, and for our business, for all our sponsors, instructors, affiliates, and friends. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.